The air in the Big Cat Haven Veterinary Clinic hung heavy, thick with a silence that spoke of loss. It wasn't the usual hushed reverence of a healing space, but a somber quiet, the kind that settles after a profound tragedy. In a large, specially insulated enclosure, Lyra, a once magnificent Siberian tigress, lay curled, motionless. Her vibrant orange and black stripes seemed muted, her powerful form diminished, a shadow of the proud mother she had been just weeks ago. Dr. Eleanor Vance moved with a practiced, gentle grace, her stethoscope pressed against Lyra's massive chest. The rhythmic thrum of the tigress's heart was steady, yet Eleanor felt a pang of profound grief, a guilt that clung to her like the scent of antiseptic. She ran a hand along Lyra's matted fur, her touch light. Her eyes, though, they hold a universe of pain, Eleanor whispered to herself, seeing her own anguish reflected in the tigress's vacant amber gaze. Lyra had lost her 3 cubs to what the official reports called a rare genetic condition, a phrase that felt hollow, inadequate. Later, hunched over the cubs' necropsy reports in her dimly lit office, Eleanor's brow furrowed. The technical jargon blurred as she reread the findings. An unprecedented genetic mutation, fast-acting, devastating. It was too specific, too aggressive, like nothing I've ever seen. Her gut, honed by years of diagnosing the inexplicable, screamed that something was deeply wrong. This wasn't just a natural tragedy. There was a precision to the destruction, a chilling efficiency that unsettled her to her core. The sterile quiet of the clinic was abruptly broken by the hurried scuff of boots and a nervous knock. Animal Control Officer Miller stood in the doorway, his uniform rumpled, a cardboard box held gingerly in his arms. He looked distinctly uncomfortable. Inside the box, a chorus of faint, reedy whimpers rose. 5 tiny, vulnerable golden retriever puppies, barely 3 weeks old, huddled together. "Found him on the county line, Dr. Vance," Miller mumbled, shifting his weight. "Mother was gone. Traffic accident," they said. Eleanor's gaze sharpened. "Where exactly?" Miller's eyes darted away, fixed on a spot just beyond Eleanor's shoulder. "Near the old Genesis Corp facility, out on the outskirts of the preserve, the off-limits area. Just a freak accident, Dr. Vance." His insistence, combined with his averted gaze, struck Eleanor as profoundly suspicious. The Genesis Corps, a defunct research facility, was an unspoken scar on the landscape, shrouded in rumors of abandoned experiments. Eleanor approached the box, her scientific curiosity overriding her immediate concern. The puppies were impossibly small, their soft fur a creamy gold. As she reached in to gently stroke one, she noticed it, a faint, almost imperceptible discoloration, a subtle bruise-like tint on the fur near its belly, easily missed in the dim clinic light. And Miller's haste, she said nothing, her mind already racing. Then, a sound. The puppy's cries, small and insistent, echoed in the unnatural quiet. From Lyra's enclosure, a stir, slowly, agonizingly, Lyra lifted her massive head, her amber eyes, which had been devoid of light for so long, fixating on the source of the sound. A primal instinct, long dormant, flickered within her. Eleanor felt a desperate, almost illogical urge. Could these vulnerable, orphaned creatures, brought to her under such suspicious circumstances, be the key to unlocking Lyra's profound grief? The question intertwined with another, more insidious one. Why did their mother die so close to Genesis Corp, and what was that faint mark on their fur? Lyra chuffed softly, a guttural, comforting sound Eleanor hadn't heard since the cubs had been alive. Eleanor gasped, her breath catching in her throat. "She's responding," she whispered, a dangerous, impossible idea solidifying in her mind. A tigress and puppies? It's insanity. Every protocol, every rational thought screamed against it. The risks were immense, both for the puppies and for Lyra's fragile mental state. But Lyra's broken spirit, the silent plea in her eyes, compelled her. "I have to try. For Lyra. And for these babies." With a mixture of trepidation and resolve, Eleanor arranged for the puppies to be placed in a smaller, reinforced glass enclosure adjacent to Lyra's. The lethargy that had cloaked the tigress vanished. Her gaze was no longer vacant. It was focused, intense, on the small, squirming forms. The smallest puppy, sensing its vulnerability, let out an intense, distressed cry. Lyra responded instantly, a series of soft, rumbling chuffs vibrating through the air. A spark returned to her eyes, a flicker of something almost maternal. She understands their need, Eleanor marveled, a fragile hope blossoming in her chest. That night, Eleanor frantically researched cross-species adoptions, finding only a handful of highly controlled, often desperate cases. The risks were immense, the success rates minimal, yet the image of Lyra's awakening gaze spurred her on. But a more chilling line of inquiry gnawed at her. She secretly began researching Genesis Corps. Vague, alarming reports surfaced. Past environmental violations, whispers of experimental animal research, before its abrupt shutdown. A cold, insidious chill snaked down her spine, tightening its grip as she connected the dots between the puppy's origin, their mother's suspicious death, and the unprecedented genetic mutation that had claimed Lyra's cubs. Eleanor knew she was venturing into dangerous territory, a place far beyond standard veterinary practice. She decided to proceed with the unconventional adoption, but she would keep her growing suspicions about Genesis Corp and the puppy's true origin to herself for now. The stakes were too high, the threads too fragile to expose prematurely. The boardroom table felt like a battleground. Elias Thorne, the sanctuary's founder, his expression etched with a blend of concern and skepticism, leaned forward. "This is unprecedented, Eleanor," he stated, his voice calm but firm. "A tigress with puppies? It's a disaster waiting to happen. The risks are astronomical." The other board members murmured in agreement, their faces reflecting similar doubts. Eleanor stood her ground, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. She argued passionately, her eyes pleading. "Lyra is dying of a broken heart. We've tried everything. And these puppies, they have no one. We have a chance to heal both, against all odds." She spoke of compassion, of a desperate, perhaps illogical hope. What she carefully omitted were the unsettling details of the puppy's origin, the phantom discoloration, the shadow of Genesis Corp. To reveal those suspicions now would be to risk everything, not just for Lyra and the puppies, but for her own desperate quest for answers. After what felt like an eternity, Elias sighed, running a hand over his silver hair. "One chance, Eleanor," he finally conceded, his words heavy with warning. "Extreme safety protocols. Close supervision. One mistake, and it's over, for you and for this experiment." The board's reluctant approval felt more like a stay of execution than a green light. Preparations began immediately. Eleanor, alongside Maya Rodriguez, the sanctuary's pragmatic behavioral specialist, meticulously set up a neutral, secure space. Reinforced glass separated Lyra's main enclosure from a smaller, padded area for the puppies. Every contingency, every possible aggressive response was planned for. "This isn't just about instincts, Maya," Eleanor found herself saying, her voice hushed. "I feel something deeper happening here." Maya, ever the scientist, raised an eyebrow but didn't dispute her. The air crackled with a palpable tension. Eleanor's heart hammered against her ribs as she carefully lifted the largest puppy, a bold little male they had named Blaze, and gently placed him on the sterile floor of the introduction chamber. Lyra watched motionless, her amber eyes wide and unblinking. "Be gentle, Lyra," Eleanor whispered, her voice barely audible, as if the tigress could understand. Then the phenomenon began. Lyra extended one massive padded paw. Not with a swat, not with a growl, but with an unimaginable tenderness. Her claws retracted. She nudged Blaze, drawing him close to her powerful flank. The puppy, driven by instinct, whimpered and began to nuzzle against her fur, searching. Lyra's amber eyes met Eleanor's across the reinforced glass. A flicker passed between them, profound and undeniable. Not just a primal maternal instinct, but a knowing connection, a silent thank you. Eleanor was stunned. She understands, Eleanor thought, a chill running down her spine. It was a level of comprehension that transcended mere animal instinct. One by one, Ember, Pounce, Shadow, and Bolt were introduced. Lyra accepted each, her massive body shifting, arranging them with an almost organized precision around her, creating a tight-knit cluster. She shielded them, her broad head often turning, her gaze sweeping the periphery of her enclosure as if guarding against an unseen threat. Within hours, Eleanor noticed an astonishing development. Lyra's body, responding to this sudden, unexpected purpose, began producing milk. It was a biological marvel. But her observations didn't stop there. Lyra consistently nudged the puppies away from one specific corner of the enclosure, her low rumbles intensifying if they strayed too close. She groomed them, a massive tongue rasping gently over their fur, but always guided their movements, ensuring they remained a shielded, contained unit, especially from the direction of the old Genesis Core facility, which lay beyond the sanctuary's western perimeter. Lyra's vigilance was unnerving. She frequently sniffed the air, her ears twitching, always towards the west. A low growl, deep and resonant, rumbled in her chest. Not predatory, but fiercely protective. It was a warning. Eleanor re-examined the puppies, her earlier concern returning. The faint discoloration she'd seen before was now more pronounced on their paws after spending time in Lyra's enclosure. It was a faint, almost metallic sheen, barely visible but distinctly unnatural. She called Maya over. "What is this, Maya?" Eleanor asked, pointing. "It looks like a residue." Maya frowned, her scientific mind sifting through possibilities. "It's not natural for their fur. Could it be from the road accident? Grease it or oil?" Eleanor shook her head, her conviction deepening. "No, it's different. It feels embedded." In that moment, Eleanor's suspicion about the puppy's origin solidified into a stark, cold certainty. This wasn't just a rescue or a cross-species adoption. It was a sanctuary for a new and possibly formed family, and possibly the epicenter of a new, terrifying mystery. As she watched Lyra cradle her adopted family, a silent, powerful vow formed in Eleanor's heart. No matter what dark secrets she uncovered, no matter the personal cost, she would protect them. "I will find out what happened," she promised herself, her voice a fierce whisper in the quiet clinic. Lyra's transformation was astonishing. Her dull fur now gleamed, her gaunt frame had filled out, and the vacant sorrow in her eyes was replaced by a fierce, watchful alertness. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving, her maternal duties having activated something profound within her. A primal strength Eleanor hadn't witnessed even before the cubs' loss. But it was more than just maternal instinct. Lyra's behavior grew increasingly sophisticated, bordering on uncanny. She positioned the puppies with deliberate strategy, her massive body a living shield, especially when human staff approached the outer perimeter of her enclosure. Maya, the sanctuary's behavioral specialist, documented Lyra seemingly teaching the puppies specific play patterns that reinforced protective formations, like huddling close or staying low to the ground. "It's like she's drilling them," Maya remarked, her usual scientific objectivity giving way to baffled wonder. Eleanor's own covert investigation deepened. Under the guise of routine hygiene checks, she began collecting minute fur samples from the puppies, as well as tiny soil and water samples from Lyra's enclosure, particularly near the western wall that faced the abandoned Genesis Corp facility. Her heart pounded with a mixture of fear and determination as she worked in her private lab late into the night. Under the powerful magnification of her microscope, the faint discoloration on the puppy's fur became clear. Microscopic, crystalline residues glittered, alien against the soft, golden strands. "What is this?" Eleanor muttered, zooming in, her breath catching. It was synthetic, unlike anything organic she had ever encountered. The puppy's routine blood work, also performed under Eleanor's clandestine scrutiny, revealed another anomaly. Slightly elevated levels of certain enzymes, not alarming on their own, but unusual for their age and breed. "These aren't just normal puppies," Eleanor whispered to herself, her suspicion intensifying into a cold certainty. The weight of her discovery became too heavy to bear alone. Eleanor found Maya in the break room, clutching a coffee cup. "Maya, I need you to see something." In the quiet privacy of the lab, Eleanor showed her the microscopic images, explaining the unusual enzyme markers. "This residue, it's synthetic, and the enzyme levels are off. It's not a natural occurrence." Maya stared at the screen, her eyes wide with a dawning horror. Her gaze flickered to Eleanor, then back to the glowing image. "Genesis Corp?" she whispered, the name a chilling question. As the days turned into weeks, Lyra's advanced awareness became undeniable. She reacted to sounds and smells far beyond what a normal animal would, often long before Eleanor or Maya noticed anything. A low growl would rumble in her chest, almost imperceptible to human ears, as she subtly directed the puppies to safety, nudging them into a tight cluster, long before any visible threat, human or otherwise, appeared. The puppies, in turn, instinctively avoided the specific corner Lyra had repeatedly nudged them away from, as if an invisible barrier existed there, radiating an unseen danger. Eleanor realized the terrifying implications of her findings. If her suspicions were confirmed, disclosing them would not only expose Lyra and the puppies to immense danger, but it would also jeopardize the sanctuary itself. She was already breaking sanctuary protocols by investigating without external authorization, risking her career, her reputation. But she couldn't stop. She pored over old files, digging deeper into Genesis Corp's history, scouring scientific databases and public records. She found redacted documents, vague mentions of unstable compounds, and chilling whispers of unethical animal testing before the facility's abrupt shutdown. Each redacted line, each hushed rumor, tightened the knot of dread in her stomach. In moments of quiet intimacy, Lyra would sometimes bring Eleanor small, odd objects she found in her enclosure. A shiny pebble, a gnarled piece of wood, a twisted leaf. She would place them gently at Eleanor's feet, her amber eyes holding a depth of understanding that transcended words. It felt like both a gift and a shared secret, a silent language between them. And then Lyra would often gaze intently at Eleanor, her eyes full of unspoken meaning, before subtly shifting her attention, her head turning slowly towards the western boundary, towards Genesis Corp, as if trying to convey a crucial message. She knows something, Eleanor told Maya, a chill running down her spine. Eleanor faced an agonizing decision. Her covert investigation was a direct violation of her professional obligations. She could ignore her intuition, protect her career, and leave Lyra and the puppies vulnerable to an unseen, insidious threat. Or she could continue risking everything, following a path that grew darker with every step. "I can't look away," Eleanor declared, her jaw set, her voice imbued with a fierce resolve. "Not when Lyra is telling me there's something out there, something that hurt her cubs, and now threatens her new family." The truth, no matter how dangerous, had to be uncovered. Lyra's protective behaviors intensified with each passing day. The slightest rumble of a vehicle approaching the sanctuary from the western side, the direction of the abandoned Genesis Core facility, would send a shiver through her massive frame. Her ears would flatten, a low, guttural growl vibrating in her chest, and she would immediately herd the puppies fiercely, pressing them against her body, sheltering them beneath her vast, striped form. Maya, watching from a distance, documented Lyra teaching the puppies an elaborate game of hiding. The golden retrievers, barely larger than her paws, would instinctively scatter, melting into the tall grass or squeezing under dense foliage at a specific chuff from Lyra. It was a behavior utterly unusual for domestic puppies, yet they performed it with a surprising, almost preternatural understanding. "She's training them to disappear," Maya observed, her voice hushed with astonishment. "It's not play, it's evasion." Eleanor's own breakthrough came during a thorough, albeit clandestine, examination of Bolt, the smallest and most adventurous of the puppies. Using a portable, high-frequency ultrasound device, she meticulously scanned his tiny body, searching for anything amiss. Her heart seized when a faint, almost imperceptible anomaly appeared on the screen, a pinprick of foreign material embedded just beneath the skin near his shoulder blade. It was too small to be felt externally, too deep for a casual scan. "It's not a standard tracking chip," she breathed, her voice trembling, the realization cold and sharp. "It's proprietary." Back in her lab, the pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. Further forensic tests confirmed that the synthetic residue from the puppy's fur and Lyra's paws was indeed a sophisticated biomarker. She cross-referenced its molecular structure with old, heavily redacted patents she'd unearthed, patents linked to Genesis Corp for enhanced biological tracking and environmental resilience experiments. The implications were staggering. The cubs hadn't been taken by a rare genetic anomaly. They were victims of Genesis Corp, their deaths a consequence of unethical experimentation. The genetic condition, a convenient cover-up. And these puppies, these innocent, vulnerable creatures, were survivors, possibly test subjects themselves, abandoned after their mother's accident, now unknowingly being protected by the very tigress whose family their creators had destroyed. A grave, chilling danger settled over Eleanor. The discovery of the tracking device wasn't just proof of Genesis Corp's past actions. It implied active monitoring. Eleanor, Lyra, and the puppies were not just subjects of a past experiment, but targets of an ongoing surveillance. The traffic accident that claimed the puppy's mother was no accident. It was a deliberate act, a ruthless removal of evidence. Eleanor grappled with a profound ethical dilemma. Her duty to the sanctuary, to its integrity and reputation, warred with her absolute visceral commitment to Lyra and the puppies. Revealing the truth, going public with these findings, would undoubtedly expose everyone to immense danger, perhaps even direct retaliation. But concealing it felt complicit, a betrayal of the very beings she swore to protect. The conspiracy theories she'd harbored in the dark corners of her mind had become a stark, terrifying reality. This wasn't just about a grieving tigress and a rescued litter. It was a corporate cover-up, a web of unethical experimentation and potentially murder. Lyra, ever attuned to Eleanor's emotional state, approached her quietly. Observing Eleanor's profound distress, the tigress nudged Eleanor's hand with her massive nose. Then, with an almost human understanding, pointed her head towards Bolt's shoulder, where the chip was embedded. Her amber eyes, filled with a chilling intelligence, held Eleanor's gaze. "She knows," Eleanor whispered, her voice barely a breath, turning to Maya, who stood equally stunned. Eleanor made a desperate plea, her voice raw with fear. "They're coming for them, Maya. For the puppies. Maybe for Lyra, too. We're all in danger." Maya, though pale, met Eleanor's gaze with unwavering resolve. "We're in this together, Eleanor. What do we do?" Eleanor knew. They needed undeniable proof, something irrefutable, to expose Genesis Corp without putting Lyra and the puppies in immediate danger. The defunct facility itself, shrouded in whispers and shadows, held the key. It was the source, the heart of the darkness. The feeling of being watched intensified, a phantom pressure on Eleanor's skin. Every rustle in the trees, every distant sound now felt like a potential threat. Eleanor and Maya exchanged a silent glance, a shared purpose, solidifying their dangerous pact. They were no longer just veterinarians. They were investigators, protectors, pitted against an unseen enemy. "We have to go to Genesis Corp," Eleanor stated, her voice low, resolute, "before they come here. If you're gripped by Lyra's incredible story, you won't believe what happens next. The shadowy conspiracy is no longer a distant threat. It's here, at the sanctuary, and it's life-threatening. Hit that like button, share this video to spread awareness, and subscribe so you don't miss a single terrifying twist in this unfolding drama. You won't want to miss how Eleanor and Lyra fight back." The serene sanctuary was quickly becoming a battleground. Funding, once a steady stream, mysteriously dried up. Media inquiries, initially curious about Lyra and her unique family, turned inexplicably hostile, painting Eleanor as reckless. Then came the safety inspections, anonymous and relentless, always focusing with unsettling precision on Lyra's enclosure, probing, questioning, trying to find any excuse to separate the tigress from her adopted cubs. Overt surveillance became a constant, chilling presence. Unmarked drones, silent predators of the sky, began appearing overhead. Their buzzing barely audible, but their intent undeniable. They hovered persistently near Lyra's habitat, a metallic eye watching every move. Eleanor and Maya felt constantly watched, their every action scrutinized. Lyra, however, responded with an almost strategic brilliance. Whenever a drone appeared, she would guide the puppies with deliberate nudges, herding them under the densest foliage, into shadows where their small forms became invisible. Then, with a guttural, warning roar that shook the very ground, she would unleash a sonic blast that sent the birds scattering in panicked flight and, uncannily, caused the drones to briefly lose signal, stuttering before regaining their altitude. She's jamming their feed, Maya exclaimed, her voice a mix of awe and terror. She understands. Eleanor's dread escalated with another horrifying discovery. During a routine water analysis, she found traces of a diluted chemical agent in Lyra's drinking supply. Not enough to kill instantly, but enough to subtly weaken. They're trying to weaken her, Eleanor said, her voice tight with anger and fear. Or worse, they want to make her vulnerable. The confrontation came during a late-night check, as Eleanor walked the perimeter of Lyra's enclosure, the moon casting long, shifting shadows. Two figures emerged from the tree line, tall, dark, and utterly devoid of expression. A cold dread gripped Eleanor, but she stood her ground. "Back off, Dr. Vance," one of them rasped, his voice a low threat. "Some things are better left buried." Eleanor, fueled by a surge of desperate courage, refused to yield. "I know about Genesis Corp," she declared, her voice ringing with defiance. "I know about the biomarkers, the tracking devices. I know about Lyra's cubs. You won't hurt this family." Suddenly, Lyra's massive form was a blur of orange and black. She had sensed the threat, a primal alarm coursing through her. With a terrifying snarl, a sound that vibrated deep in Eleanor's bones, Lyra charged the fence, her powerful paws slamming against the reinforced steel, narrowly missing the retreating figures. They scrambled back, their movements clumsy with fear, melting into the darkness as Lyra's protective fury consumed the night. Back in the relative safety of the office, Maya, poring over the digitized blueprints of the old Genesis Corp facility, let out a gasp. "Eleanor, look at this. There's a hidden sublevel. It's not abandoned. This is a potential active research lab, not just a derelict site." The revelation hit Eleanor like a physical blow. Genesis Corp wasn't just covering up an old mistake. They were actively continuing their unethical research, likely using the surrounding environment, the sanctuary, as a testing ground. Lyra's cubs were victims, and the puppies were not just abandoned experimental subjects, but possibly ongoing ones. Elias Thorne, once skeptical, was now fully aware of the full, horrifying danger. He sat in his office, head in his hands, torn. "They have deep pockets, Eleanor," he mumbled, his voice hoarse. "They'll crush us. They'll bury this place." Lyra, in an astounding display of trust, began bringing the puppies to Eleanor, nudging them gently towards her, as if entrusting them to Eleanor's care. It was an unprecedented act of loyalty, a silent plea for help that transcended species. Eleanor watched the puppies, their rapid growth and heightened senses, and a horrifying thought struck her. Their unique development might not just be due to Lyra's incredible maternal care, but a side effect of the Genesis Corp biomarker. "They made them stronger," she whispered, horrified. A chilling realization. Genesis Corp might not just be trying to silence her. They might be trying to reclaim the puppies. They were valuable assets. Eleanor and Maya devised a desperate plan. They had to secure undeniable proof from the Genesis Corp facility itself. It was the only way to truly protect Lyra and her extraordinary family. "It's the only way," Eleanor reiterated, her voice firm. Eleanor understood this confrontation, this dangerous infiltration, could mean the end of Big Cat Haven, or even their lives. But Lyra and her family, the innocent victims of a ruthless corporation, deserved justice and freedom. There was no turning back. Under the oppressive blanket of a stormy night, Eleanor and Maya, armed with little more than a flashlight and raw courage, covertly entered the Genesis Core facility. The skeletal remains of the abandoned structure loomed, but Maya's blueprints led them to a hidden access panel. Below, a functional humming lab sprawled, humming with an insidious life. The horrors they uncovered defied imagination. Cages, still holding the faint scent of fear, lined sterile corridors. Evidence of horrifying genetic experiments on big cats and canines was everywhere. Fragmented lab reports detailing tissue manipulation, biohazard waste barrels glowing faintly, and classified documents revealing a chilling global network. "This isn't just about pollution," Eleanor gasped, her voice choked with disgust. "This is biowarfare research." Then, a file titled Compound Lyra Gen caught Eleanor's eye. It detailed a genetically unstable agent designed to manipulate animal traits, accidentally mutated, causing rapid respiratory failure. A wave of nausea washed over Eleanor as she read. recognizing the symptoms, the timeline. This was the cause of Lyra's cub's death. "They murdered her babies," she whispered, a heartbroken rage burning in her chest. Next, Project Canis reports detailed the tracking of biomarkers and enhanced traits in local canines exposed to their compounds. The puppies weren't just victims, they were unwitting subjects. Their survival a statistical anomaly, their unique development a direct result of Genesis Corp's meddling. Suddenly alarms blared, a piercing shriek echoing through the concrete labyrinth. Genesis Corp's security was closing in. Eleanor and Maya, clutching crucial data drives, narrowly escaped, pursued by heavy footsteps and barking dogs, the very animals they were trying to save now weaponized against them. Back at the sanctuary, the adrenaline faded, replaced by exhaustion and a chilling determination. Maya worked tirelessly, decrypting the stolen data. Genesis Corp, she discovered, was not an isolated entity but part of a larger global conglomerate operating under various shell companies. They were perfecting animal genetic manipulation for unknown purposes, with immense governmental ties. "This is bigger than we imagined, Eleanor," Maya said, her face pale. "This isn't just a corporation, it's a shadow empire." With undeniable proof in hand, Eleanor faced Elias and Maya, the weight of an ultimate choice pressing down on her. Expose Genesis Corp, bring down a powerful entity, but inevitably place a massive target on Lyra and the puppies, or try to disappear Lyra and the puppies, protecting them from the world, but letting the corporation continue its insidious work, unpunished. Lyra watched Eleanor from her enclosure, her amber eyes deep with an ancient wisdom, as if understanding the immense burden Eleanor carried. She nudged Eleanor's hand with her nose, then looked toward the horizon, a silent, powerful plea for freedom, not just safety. Lyra wanted justice. Eleanor made her agonizing decision. "We can't let them win." Lyra and her family represent hope, freedom, and the absolute right to exist without being pawns in someone else's sick game. "We fight." The unseen war began. Eleanor meticulously leaked the information, not to a single news outlet, but to a trusted network of international investigative journalists and animal rights groups, ensuring its wide dissemination and making it virtually impossible to suppress. The fallout was immediate and overwhelming. The sanctuary was swamped, not just with journalists hungry for the story of the tigress and her puppies, but with government agents and corporate lawyers, all scrambling to manage the unprecedented crisis. Elias, a pillar of strength, worked tirelessly to protect the haven, navigating the legal and political maelstrom. Lyra's story and that of her adopted golden retriever family became a global phenomenon. It was more than just a heartwarming tale. It was a powerful symbol of resilience against unethical human intervention, a beacon of hope in a world too often shadowed by darkness. The puppies, now older, their unique empathy and intelligence, a direct, albeit dark, legacy of their origins, were carefully prepared for new roles as therapy animals. Their unusual abilities, born from experimentation, were repurposed for good, a testament to the enduring power of compassion. Even years later, Lyra remained a fierce protector, her senses hyper-attuned. She often gazed at the distant, now truly abandoned and raided Genesis Corp site, her amber eyes holding a vigilant glint. The unseen war was not over, merely shifted. Lyra and her family found a measure of peace within the sanctuary's protective embrace, but Eleanor knew the forces they had fought were still out there, lurking in the shadows. The big cat haven stood as a beacon, a testament to compassion and courage, but also a constant, stark reminder that some secrets, once revealed, lead to an eternal vigilance.